Yeah, this is Devin Swank from Sanguisugabogg and a bunch of other death metal bands, and you're listening to Vulgar Display of Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Vulgar Display of Podcast live from the Barn Studio. You got the Mox, Anthony, and Dale here, and we're joined online with the king of the meme, Devin from Sanguisugabogg. Devin, how are you, man?
Woo! Doing good, man. Made it. I'm just glad that we're actually doing this, man. I'm a pretty busy guy, so I'm glad I have some time carved out for all y'all. And
we're excited. We've been wanting to talk to you for a while. I'm glad we could connect, via Zoom, even though that's been a little bit of a mess. But we're here regardless. And we kind of talk about how busy you are. If we named all the bands, we'd be here even longer. You're in so many bands, and I think you even made a social media post about you can't say no to bands. You just keep on stacking them up. But man, you're in some sick ones. Obviously, Sanguisugabogg is just, these last couple of years have just, you guys have toured all over the world and you've done amazing, awesome things. And I hear there's some maybe a new album on the rise.
Yeah, man. I'm busy. I've been very lucky the last 2 years to kind of leave. What I was doing full time. I did a epoxy, like concrete sealant. That was my day gig. I had a crew of like me and 8 other people. So we do like pool decks and all kinds of shit. And, I ended up selling my company and all my tools and dived into music full time. And just like you said, man, I can't say no to anything, especially to my friends. So, and, we recorded a Sanguisugabogg record back in March. We were at God City Studios, Massachusetts, with Kurt Ballou, and carved out 10 songs that I personally think that it's our best collaboration as a band. Now that we've been a band for 6 years, I think this is like the best work we've ever done, and I can't wait for it to come out, man.
Super pumped for the song titles.
Yeah. They're pretty gnarly.
This is your second time working with Kurt, and what's that experience? Obviously, you guys enjoyed the first time with Homicidal Ecstasy, and so much critical acclaim, and the fans loved it. And to me, it felt, and tell me what you think, it sort of felt like you guys' really coming out party. It almost felt like maybe your debut, and I know there's been plenty of others before, but what was it like working with Kurt again?
It was awesome, man. I'll never come out, man. I'm a closeted. No, I'm not even going to go there. But
it's the old Norm Macdonald joke, right? I'm a
Norm Macdonald joke, like loaded for you. Yeah, but the first time we worked with him, he only did the mixing part. We recorded everything in house with our drummer in his basement. We're a basement band, garage band. So that's how we've been rooted and kind of stuck to those roots for so long. And this time around, it was like, you know what, now that we have the budget and the resources, like, why don't we, just go full force and actually have somebody that we respect as an extra ear, to kind of break up all the monotony. And, because like when you're a musician, you're the most like self-critical ever. So everything's going to sound like shit until you just stop listening to it. So to have someone who's very well respected, like Kurt Ballou, Grammy Award winning, to tell you like, this is sick. This is how we can make it sicker. It's been a really cool experience. And it's definitely kind of like come to Jesus moment for us. Cause it would, now it's like we're in a bigger league than we were used to, never really had like an analog board in front of us and like, oh, cool. Like where we record drums is a separate room for where I'm going to track or where the guitars are going to track. And it definitely became way more legit. And it's been pretty badass.
I saw on the Garza interview, you said you recorded, was it 15 songs in 2 days? Did you do that this time or did you take your time?
I think I had 3 days with Kurt, and I did 12 or 13 songs total altogether this time around. Drums obviously take the longest, and and a lot of punch-ins and stuff like that. But yeah, something around that nature. And plus, like, I think coming into a new studio, there was this whole other like anxiety that I personally took on, because I'm like, holy shit, this dude has wrote records that I've been listening to since I was like 12 years old.
Same.
And yeah, man, he's the man. And then to come face to face with him, and I hear in horror stories too. Like I have a friend that he made cry when he was tracking drums there. So I was like, this fucker's not gonna break me, like let's see what I could do. But I think the 2 nights before I actually tracked with him, I was up the entire night, like, dude, like shitting bricks. Like I don't know how I'm gonna be able to pull this off, but the whole self-critical aspect comes in, where you're kind of just beating yourself up, like, man, does this sound like shit? Does it sound like shit? Because obviously recording, it's way different than a live or practice setting. And at the end of it all, man, I think it's I think especially for Sanguisugabogg, it's probably my most solid like vocal performance out of me too, which is cool.
So Devin, we're in a really exciting time for especially new death metal bands. It seems like the popularity is just going off the charts. A lot of the Danny Wimmer festivals are just chock full of these new American death metal bands, including Sanguisugabogg. What is your take on that, and why is it happening now? What do you think's in the water, so to speak?
I just think that more heavier music became more commercialized, to an aspect. And my family, my parents are pretty young, man. They just turned 50 this year. So, my dad was brought up on fucking Beastie Boys and Slayer and all kinds of shit. So that youth is, if you were like me, you grew up listening to what your parents listened to. Mm-hmm. And even as I got older, I was like, man, my dad still listens to cool shit. So, and music progressed like from there on too. So I think that I think it just came natural, like with the times, man. Like, like these kids that are starting these bands, they were brought into this world by parents that were listening to Sepultura and Slayer and Pantera. So I think it just comes natural. And then I've noticed too, like, when I was in high school, like a lot of the HM2, like Swedish, like death metal tones bands were pretty like popular commodity, like fucking Black Breath, Gate Creeper, and stuff like that. I mean, Gate Creeper happened after I was already out of high school, but I think that next wave was just like more of the underground, brutal kind of style of death metal, or caveman, what people like to call it. I think that was just like the next in line to kind of get its heyday.
Sometimes you end up being sort of the face of that movement, of this like new wave of American death metal. And I imagine with that maybe comes some responsibility, but if anybody that knows you and knows your band, you guys never take yourselves too seriously. And that was actually, I think, one of our first, sort of becoming aware of you guys is the Twitter. The Twitter was just famous. And we talked to Seth before. We interviewed Seth a couple of years ago, and he said, oh man, that's all Devin. So when I introduced you as the king of the meme, talk about that a little bit, how you guys never take yourselves too seriously, and you always have fun. You're always, poking fun at other people, but yourself just as much as anything else.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, I think it comes territory with being a dude. Like you can't dish it without taking it, like,
right.
I gotta bust my friends' balls, and my friends bust my balls, and I gotta bust their balls back, like And at the end of the day, we're all laughing at whatever's being said. And I've just been like that my whole life, man. You know, like my dad was one of those dads that was like my best friend. So he would kind of like rip on me a lot. He was also my coach growing up. So, and then same with friends that I've had since I was a kid, you know, I still hang out with. Like, it just comes territorial. And I think with a style of music that's so dark and brutal, you know, just on the surface, it is funny. And if you do take it so seriously, like if you really think the guy from Dark Funeral like just goes by Lord Airman all day and wears fucking corpse paint when he shops at Kmart, like
Yeah.
that's wild to me, you know, like, so I could never take that shit like that seriously. If I did, I'd be a whole different I'd be on a whole separate spectrum than what I already am on. And that too. And, you know, I do have I mentioned it in previous interviews and stuff. I do have a stand-up background, you know, before I pursued music. You know, I did stand-up comedy for a couple years, and I think that kind of translates into being like the front man of a band. And, you know, I always looked up to people like Matt Bishop from Lividity and Danny Nelson from Malignancy. You know, they were people that in between songs, they would make fun of people. And I just always thought that was fucking awesome. I love that.
Well, you mentioned the stand-up comedy, and I did hear that on some interviews that you did. And we've actually, I heard also your admiration for Big Jay Oakerson, who we've interviewed. And we actually went and saw him, and man, I tell you what, dude, I hold that guy so high in regard to, like, you know, I mean, everybody talks about crowd work now and all these like clips and everything. That dude could not have made it. None of that could have been written, because it was all in the moment, and he had the room rolling. I mean, it was incredible. And I know you have a big affinity for him as well.
Oh yeah, big time, man. I mean, you know, because when I've seen him too, like when he does crowd work, sometimes he'll repeat. So, you know, some stuff is like a work, but the way he calls people out on stuff, it's so natural. And you know when he's making stuff up on the fly, because he starts laughing at it.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, he's the man. He's been one of my favorites since he was on Premium Blend, like on Comedy Central, like when I was a kid. So I've been watching him for years.
Yeah, and we mentioned the Norm thing, and obviously you guys had a cartoon version of what looked like a Norm character, right?
Oh, it was. Yeah.
Shit. So, and there was even some Wayne's World and some Strange Brew in there. So it always seems like there's a little bit of nods to, you know, your love of comedy, and love that. I mean, we love metal, true, but man, if you can make each other laugh, and like you're talking about busting other's balls, we've always talked about, like, if you know, if I actually like you, I'm busting your balls.
Right.
If I don't like you, then that's when maybe I'm being a little bit more quiet about it. Yeah. So it's sort of our love language, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I grew up listening to like a lot of the shock jock, like Opie and Anthony stuff. And I think that's always been like my kind of humor, is taking stuff that anybody else would just be completely butthurt or offended by, and just kind of like putting that out there on the forefront. And then, yeah, I mean, the whole point, especially if you're going to be playing music, like you want to have fun, you know. And if I took myself seriously all the time and there was an ambiance and we had haze and fog machines and crazy light shows and I had to play to a barricade crowd like all the time, like that takes the fun out of it for me. You know, I want people that follow us to like look at us as like, obviously not completely like accessible kind of people, but people that, you know, anybody could relate to, really.
So Devin, let's talk about this new Bludgeoned by Deformity record. We actually got an advanced copy of it. Man, that thing is killer. In your words, what are the fans going to expect from this record?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a passion project of mine. Like, me and Braden had the idea of Bludgeon for over a year now, and so I do think there's a lot of curveballs like thrown out there. Like, there's a whole kind of new arsenal of my vocal range that I try to put into that band. Like you get my low registered growl, but you also get like the kind of the hardcore bark, that I've had in previous bands, and it was all just to kind of like play homage to bands that I love. So, we worked with Adam Jarvis on that too, which one of the bands that he was in that for just a minute that I loved was a band called Fulgora. And as nasty and heavy as they were, I just remember their vocalist had this like crazy mid-range, like legible style of vocals. And everything he said, he was so mad and angry when he said it that there was conviction behind it. Like, you believed it. Even if he was talking about killing people in the streets or beating the shit out of a priest, it's like, this dude like means business. And I kind of wanted to bring like that aspect of my voice, and lyrically it's a lot more evil and not really more like tongue in cheek, I guess, than what people kind of expect from me. I mean, I talk about all kinds of stuff, man. They came from a time where I talk about like my own experiences, like kind of removing myself from religion. Like I was at one point in my life, I was a born again Christian, and then I had a friend that he was only 18, who died and like drowned to death, and I remember they had his body in an open casket, and he was like completely bloated and disfigured entirely. That I was just like, man, this kid that never did shit to anyone did not deserve to die like this. And it opened up my whole like world, man. And it kind of made me realize like, man, like all of this stuff that I was kind of forced to follow, maybe not all of it's true. Maybe not all of it should be held to heart. And like in Bludgeoned by Deformity, I actually put pen to paper and like talk about it. So it's pretty cool. There's a lot of grit, and there's a lot of real life shit like in that album.
Do the different bands that you're in, do they require different things from you? Do they feel different? I mean, maybe that's a dumb question, but is your role different in them, I guess?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I think every band has like that I'm involved in has a certain ambiance to a character, I guess, that I need to like portray. And, regardless whatever it is, like you're still getting me, so I'm like a schizo dude, so
yep.
One band like that I'm in, like Tomb Sentinel, it talks about just being from the Midwest and dealing with the shit that we deal with around here, and being Midwest folk, and how like you're brought up, and like, especially in my household, it was respect's given to you, but it's up to you whether you keep it or not, and we have tons of songs about that. And then with Sanguisugabogg, it's almost like everything goes. And with Bludgeon, it's like I gotta be this like pissed off type of dude. Like I want it to be the band that like someone cuts you off in traffic, cue up your song, like it's got to be ready for you. So yeah. I mean, every band, there's a different persona that I take on, and regardless, like, you know, it's still genuine, and it's always still going to be 100% me.
So even though I'm a diehard Buckeye fan, right? We are a St. Louis-ish podcast. I got to ask, what's it like to work with the local boys, the homies in Sawoff?
Oh, Sawoff is sick, man. You know, like, I'm glad they hit me up because, like,
us too.
yeah. I was gonna. I've been wanting to catch them and stuff for a while. You know, my friend Tannen, who's done a lot of their artwork and everything, put me on, and you know, like with this new wave of bands like them and a band called Ripped Open from Indiana. You know, I could hear the subtle like Sanguisugabogg influences, and you know, when I hear stuff like that, man, like I take notice of it right away, and I'm just like, that's cool. Like those people are enough to like fuck with me enough to be influenced and write this style of music, you know. So when they hit me up, it was a no-brainer. I was like, absolutely, I'll get this done in a week. So
fuck yeah, dude, that's awesome.
Hell yeah.
Some people, I would say, would maybe take offense to that if you hear a band that the sound is very similar, but you seem to sort of embrace that and, you know, almost feel honored by that.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's death metal, you know. I mean, it's been done for, you know, almost 40 years now. It's like you're not gonna recreate the wheel. You know, everything sounds like something, and you could be different, but if you're too different, then no one's really gonna like it anyways. So, you know, I mean, I'm as much as I am a musician, I'm 10 times more a fan of the music. So, you know, like I'm not Dying Fetus or Immolation. I'm not Cannibal Corpse. You're not going to see me wearing a black t-shirt on stage. You're going to see a band logo like on my shirt, you know? And I love those guys. Like they've earned the right to do that because every other band sounds like those bands. So what are they going to wear, you know? And, but yeah, man, like I'm a fan. So, and what I bring to the table is, you know, is the stuff that I've been listening to. I mean, I said this before. I feel like I personally owe like Frank Mullen a cut of my paycheck, dude. Because if it wasn't for, there's a lot of people, man, like but in death metal, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. Like he's the one for me that made fronting a death metal band like look fucking cool. So I owe a lot to him.
I gotta ask, what are you listening to in the gym? I was telling them the Zoom was probably fucking up. Your screen probably wasn't big enough. You, sir, are a fucking unit.
Beefcake. Beefcake. Straight beefcake.
Oh yeah, thanks, dude. Yeah. I've been hitting it pretty hard lately. Yeah, man. I mean, I listen to everything, and just all really depends on what catches the mood. I think like last night I was hitting legs, and it was like 90s like boom bap like hip hop. So I was listening to like Nas and Biggie and all kinds of stuff. And then but yeah, I mean, I always listen to the same bands. When we were in Detroit, I hit the gym and I was listening to Gallery of Suicide by Cannibal just on repeat, the whole album. And then what I like to do also, man, is like when we get a new mix or master of like the Bogg record, I'm like, all right, you know, there's a car test, there's the speaker test, and then there's the gym test.
Hell yeah. I'm all for the car test. I get a new album, like get me in my car.
Yep. Yeah. And so far it's been in my ears in the gym, because there's a couple songs, like the first like 4 tracks especially, like I've been listening to them a lot, like in the gym, and I'm like, all right, cool. You know, I feel like death metal hits way different when you're cruising and when you're in the gym, man. It's like your spotter. So
I wish I could sing my own songs in the gym. Like I was listening to the Bog. And I feel like to be you and just sing your own shit, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah. I've done that, man. I'll do like hammer curls or something. I'll be in the mirror like
I'm him
singing. Yeah.
Nice.
And people are like looking at me like I'm crazy, and I'm like, oh, well.
Myself, fuck you.
Yeah. This is just me.
Yeah. You put that death metal on, it's that extra rep. It's like creatine, right?
It's can lift heavier. Yeah, exactly.
What is it? ATP or whatever. Yeah. That last little rep in. Hey, we can't let you get out of here without talking about 200 stab wounds. And I just want to talk a little bit about what that band means to us. Very early on in this podcast, we had maybe done a couple interviews, but they were the first interview that we actually did in person. We went down and seen them in Memphis, and they agreed to do it. And we've spoken to them, I don't know how many times since, and become friends with them. And I know you guys are obviously road bros, but you actually, I think, helped them out in a lot of different ways. I think maybe with Maggot Stomp, and then maybe even eventually Century Media. Talk about your relationship with those guys and how you've seen their career progress. I mean, you guys have both kind of risen at the same time, and it's been really neat to see.
Yeah. I mean, I've known, especially the original lineup. I've known Steve and Lance for years. I've known Steve since he was about 15 years old. We're just across the lake, man. Like I lived 2 hours south of him, and I used to be for 8 years. I was in this like really underground brutal death band called Limbsplitter, and Steve was in this band. They changed their name a lot, but they were called Cringe, and then they were called Subtype Zero. Funny lore about that. They were called Cringe, and then they got a cease and desist from Rachel Ray's husband.
What?
Who was in a rock band called The Cringe.
Oh, jeez.
And basically had their lawyer like contact Steve when he was like senior in high school. And
what's a cease? Dude, cease.
You come back to school on Monday, you're never gonna believe who fucking called me. Rachel.
Yeah. They got a C and
D. The hell of asparagus. She knows the recipe. She could say.
Yeah, and when Bog started on, like Steve was coming to a lot of our shows, and he always had like a love for death metal. He's a thrasher at heart, and there's a lot of bands that we bond over. And I got to hear one time we were just shooting the shit, and he sent me the original drum machine recordings of the 200 Stab Wound songs. At the time, they didn't even have vocals, and I was like, dude, like, you know me. If I hear something that doesn't have vocals, I'm like, let me help you.
I got you.
And he, I was like, what's your plan with this, man? And he was like, I want to do a live band. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I was like, all right. So, kind of help in a way, like put them on. And I got them in touch with Scott over at Maggot Stomp, who signed them for their demo and their first full length. And, I knew once they started touring and everything that they were going to really, really catch on, which is sick, man. Cause like, I'm a hater when hating needs to come right. But if you're my friends and I fuck with your band, man, I want everyone to eat, like everyone has a spot at the table, man. You can eat. And, Steve, I have such a love for, bro. I look at him like literally like one of my little brothers. And I just wanted to make sure, like, hey, man, like I'm not going to do wrong by you. If I tell you something, that maybe you need to be weary of, or something that you should like consider, take my advice and take it well. Cause like I have your best interests at heart. So, when it came, them signing with, Brian Slagle at Metal Blade, I was like, well, dude, like everybody knows Metal Blade Records. So obviously you got to go with that. And then, same with like their management and everything like that too. Like we shared the same team, so we're still under the same umbrella and family. And yeah, I mean, their first show they ever played was like, it was in my garage, you know, and their first tour ever was us taking them out for a couple dates. And then what was really cool about that is like a year after that, you know, both of us are supporting Cannibal Corpse for a run of shows. And so it's definitely like a huge, like full circle moment. I'm like, man, like, you know, me and Steve are at a Slayer show in Columbus, rolling a backwoods, smoking weed. And now we're here like doing the damn thing. It's fucking awesome, man. And I have nothing but love. Every iteration of the band, every lineup, past and present, like I have such a big place in my heart for 200 Stab Wounds. Always will.
Hell yeah. Got me all goosebumpy over here.
Teary-eyed and
shit. I mean, the feel.
Yeah, we just got off the road with them, actually. We just did a run of shows with them in between our festivals and stuff that we did.
How was Tied Down? It looked like a great fucking time.
Yeah, man, Tie Down sick. What sucked is like, you know, I'm sick. Like I took 2 Sudafeds, but I mean, dude, I was hacking up a lung, and I hate playing shows in those conditions, but the show must go on. And what sucked though was like I hit legs like the night before, and fucking people are jumping on top of me and shit. And I'm like, we're all right, we got this, you know. But yeah, I mean, nonetheless, it was cool. And you know, nowadays I make sure, like, especially a one-off thing, you know, I'll take my wife and we drove up. It's only like a 3-hour hike from us, and we did a lot of touristy stuff. We went to like Ferndale. There's a really cool ass record store there called Found Sound, and bought a Baphomet record and a couple cool CDs. Bought like an original pressing of None So Vile from Cryptopsy, and which I already have like 2 other copies of because I'm a dork. But you know, so yeah. I mean, it was all together. It was a badass weekend.
Good deal.
Devin here with Sanguisugabogg and Bludgeoned by Deformity. New record comes out June 6th. So this week, right? Like this Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this Friday, man. It's finally out, man. Shout out Ben from Iron Fortress Records, man. He's definitely holding the torch now for a lot of up and coming bands. You know, I feel like a lot of smaller, you know, distros and labels that were kind of like the foundation for a lot of newer bands coming. They've kind of been way more picky, way more choosy. And it's cool to have someone like Ben, who's such a passionate force, dude, who loves the music and just wants to do right by his bands. And it's been cool as fuck working with him, dude. And like I said, I'm very excited for Bludgeon, dude. Like being able to work with my friend Braden, who I've known for a few years. I put him on to a lot of cool. That's what I do. You know, if I meet you, we instead of bonding, we do this thing called banding. Like I'll send you 1 million bands that I need you to listen to. And
bonding, it's banding.
That's right.
Yeah, you got that?
Yeah.
He's one of those guys. And to work with him and Ethan from Jive Bomb, who loves death metal, and the man Adam Jarvis, dude, for him, whose plate is like so full as it is. And I didn't even ask, you know, like I was showing him some of our early recordings, like no vocals, drum machine stuff, and just immediately was like, do you need a drummer? And I was like, don't fucking cock tease me, dude. Like, you know, like he's the man in my eyes, dude. And
and you talk about, you know, St. Louis. He's originally from St. Louis.
From St. Louis.
And
yep.
his cousin John Jarvis, who we've spoke to, he's in Nest and Scour with Phil from Pantera. Yeah, and Adam's got his resume is ridiculous. Misery Index and Pig Destroyer. I mean, he's been in everything. But one of the 6 drummers around.
Oh yeah, man. And cool thing about John too, I don't know if he mentioned this, he lives with Phil and Selma. I found that out. Yeah, he lives in like one of his guest homes. And I think that's our plan for the next Bludgeon record. I think we're going to Phil and Cade's and in New Orleans, which is I'll literally piss and shit myself when it happens because like I don't talk about it a lot, but man, like watching the Pantera home videos when I was a kid.
Yeah. How'd you go?
And seeing like the Monsters of Rock, like Moscow show that they played to like shit ton of people, and just Phil just owning it, dude. And that's like there's a lot of dudes that, you know, to me are like, that's who made fronting a band look so fucking cool. He's like at the top of the list. Him and Danzig are like the shit, dude. So the fact that he, you know, even knows my name is like the craziest thing in my world, you know. And but yeah, I mean, he does Scour with Adam does Scour with Phil, and he's in Nail Bomb now with Max Cavalera. So
oh wow, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, man. And
Phil,
check this out. When before Pantera got back together, I'll tell you some lore. And before or after Slayer broke up, Phil, Kerry King, and Adam were talking about starting a band together.
Jeez.
That'd be killer.
St. Louis boy.
Could you imagine?
Red.
Yeah.
Right. I think he's out in Maryland now, but yeah. He's originally OG St. Louis.
Yeah, he is St. Louis. Yeah, I tell him when I drive through and stuff that I'm in your old stomping grounds, man. We were dude, we had to turn down a St. Louis show that they really like kicking my ass about. But before we were gonna play Sonic Temple and stuff, we had to fly to Winnipeg. But before that Winnipeg show, we were supposed to play. We were going to be slotted to play with Mastodon and Hatebreed in St. Louis.
Oh wow!
And the only reason we turned it down was because it's like drive all the way up to St. Louis, drop off our van, fly to Winnipeg, play the show right off the flight, and then fly back to Columbus. Me and Drew had to play another show with our other bands, and then be at Sonic Temple at 8 a.m. Like we would have been hell.
Yeah.
To be with, man. Like I knew it. So maybe in the future, something like that is in the cards.
Well, if you're a Bog fan, July 22nd, Tuesday, it's been moved to off-Broadway venue, which you're going to annihilate that place. Sanguisugabogg with Putrid Stew and Stabbing. Tuesday, July 22nd. The Vulgar Display of Podcast is going to be there. I guarantee it. Okay. Devin, we appreciate your time today, man. We are big fans. Man, I can't fucking talk.
I do want to. We're going to have a care package for you from one of our sponsors.
Yes.
When we come up. Smoke to Valhalla is one of our sponsors, and we're going to bring you some goodies.
Yep.
And we can't, we can't thank you enough for the shout outs before the interview, like posting on your Instagram and spreading the word so much.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, man. We're Ken. You know, I like you guys' setup. Like it's a badass room, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. So yeah, stoked to see you guys in St. Louis, dude. We'll fucking rage. Have you guys bought tickets yet?
Nope,
not yet.
All right, don't. I'll put you on the guest list.
My man.
Even better.
Yeah, I'm already there.
Oh, yeah.
All right, brother. Thanks so much for doing this, and we're gonna catch you Tuesday, July 22nd, at Off Broadway in St. Louis. Thanks so much, man.
Sounds good, guys. See ya. Stay heavy.
Yes, sir.